As 80,000 people were being evacuated due to a risk of an imminent volcanic eruption, Ethiopia's Dofen volcano produced an explosion, blasting rock and minor amounts of ash 50 meters or 164 feet into the air. By the time this series of explosions ended, geolocated explosions what remained at the source vent was a brand new 24.4 meter or 80-foot wide crater in the ground adjacent to two structures. Following this, activity migrated to the south, forming mud volcanoes that erupted along three separate fissure segments. In very little time, violently erupting mud volcanoes covered a 25-acre swath of ground. And yet, due to some weirdness, us scientists are still not sure if the described January 3, 2025 events represented an actual phreatic volcanic eruption which didn't eject any lava, or just a series of hydrothermal explosions like witnessed at Yellowstone National Park's Biscuit Basin on July 23, 2024. The simple explanation is that it can sometimes be really difficult to differentiate between the two. Regardless, I have 2 pieces of good news and 3 pieces of bad news regarding the still ongoing 35-kilometer-long magma dike that has generated the aforementioned mud volcanoes, explosion crater, Ethiopia's largest earthquake since 1992, and an additional 83 magnitude 4 and 5 range earthquakes. Good news first, the good news. As you might have noticed, the number of earthquakes and overall seismic energy has dramatically decreased since it reached a peak on January 4, suggesting that the risk of eruptive activity at least for now is declining. Second, due to new research from a scientific paper now being referenced on screen, we are certain that the composition of the underlying magma dike is basaltic instead of rhyolitic. Basalt eruptions tend to be significantly less hazardous than rhyolitic eruptions, although both are still quite dangerous. And now, bad news, the bad news. This same paper suggested that we got the dimensions of the smaller late September to mid-October 2024 magma dike wrong. While we initially thought it was 21 km long and located at a depth of 4 km, it was in fact only 11 km long and located at a mere depth of 3 km. This body of magma was estimated to be a mere 2 meters or 6.6 feet wide, but don't let that small figure fool you, as it still contained 80 million cubic meters of magma. While we don't know for sure of the composition of the current intrusion, I see absolutely Ethiopian volcanoes no reason why it wouldn't be even shallower than 3 kilometers and also basaltic. However, what is most concerning is that magma seemingly reached its final maximum shallow depth very early on in the intrusion and then became propagating horizontally, accounting for the vast majority of the earthquakes.